The day I learned my stepson was killing me started like any other Thursday. Dr. Chen slid the toxicology report across her desk. The numbers swam. 4.7, 1.2, 0 point. I blinked. They stayed blurred. Your arsenic levels are 0 micrograms per deciliter, she said. Normal is below 0.1. This is 4 times the threshold for acute poisoning. Someone has been poisoning you systematically for months. I took the report. My hands went numb. The paper trembled. 6 months of symptoms. The morning nausea. The tremors. Trent's daily visits flashed through my mind. The vitamins he brought. The coffee he insisted I drink hot. His concerned face, asking if I'd taken them yet. The $4.7 million life insurance policy for my union benefits. My stepson had been killing me. How did I not see this coming? Quick pause in the story, tap subscribe, and let's dive back in. I spent 42 years with IBEW Local 769. Started as an apprentice at 19, pulling wire through commercial buildings in downtown Phoenix when the city was half the size it is now. Made journeyman at 23. Master electrician at 31. Learned to read blueprints, bend conduit, calculate voltage drop in my head while standing in a ladder in 100-degree heat. Met my first wife, Caroline, at a union barbecue in 1979. Married her 8 months later. Rebecca came along 2 years after that, and for a while things held together. Caroline packed lunches. I taught Rebecca to wire a light switch at age 9. We split holidays between Phoenix and Portland without lawyers. But Caroline got a job offer in Portland when Rebecca was 7, and we both knew she should take it. No anger, no lawyers fighting over assets. We split custody, kept it civil, raised our daughter between 2 cities until Rebecca chose to stay with me full-time during high school. I met Janet at the Union Hall in 1995. She was working as a bookkeeper, managing benefit accounts and pension paperwork. She brought coffee to the garage without asking, kept the Union Hall books balanced to the penny, wore the same watch for 15 years. We married in 1996. She came with a 10-year-old son named Trent from her first marriage to some developer who'd walked out when the kid was 6. Trent had his mother's green eyes, but none of her warmth. Looked at me like I was a placeholder, a blue-collar replacement for the white-collar father who'd abandoned him. I tried, took him to Diamondbacks games, taught him basic electrical work, paid for his business degree at Arizona State. He took the money and the education, failed the CPA exam twice, then drifted into real estate during the boom years when anyone with a license could make 6 figures. The insurance policy came from the 1994 contract negotiations. Local 769 was facing corporate downsizing, companies demanding wage freezes in exchange for keeping union shops. Our negotiators got creative. Instead of raises, they secured whole life insurance policies for senior members. Bid policies, the kind that would have cost us thousands in monthly premiums on the private market. Mine was valued at $4.7 million. I filed the paperwork in my garage workshop with everything else. Another union benefit, like the pension and health coverage. A banker's box labeled 1994, sitting on metal shelving between 1993 and 1995. Every receipt, every pay stub, every benefit statement I'd received since 1981, organized chronologically in boxes that lined one wall of my 2-car garage. The other wall held my tools, pegboards with labeled outlines showing where each wrench and screwdriver belonged. A rolling toolbox with drawers sorted by function. Wire strippers, voltage testers, conduit benders, all maintained and organized the way I'd been trained. In the center, on a custom-built stand, sat my 1967 Triumph Bonneville. British racing green with chrome exhaust pipes I'd been polishing for 23 years. The bike was my meditation, my connection to a younger version of myself who'd bought it half-assembled from a retiring pipe fitter in 1999. Janet used to joke I'd never finish restoring it, because then I'd have no excuse to spend Saturday mornings in the garage listening to Johnny Cash and avoiding household projects. She was right. I took early retirement in 2019 when Janet got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. Inoperable, 18 months if we were lucky. I spent those months managing her medications, sleeping in a chair beside the hospital bed we set up in our living room, learning to recognize the subtle changes in her breathing that meant the pain was getting worse. She died on a Tuesday morning in March 2021, held my hand, asked me to make peace with Trent, told me she loved me. Then she was gone. That deathbed request locked me in. Janet wanted family harmony, wanted her son and her husband to move past whatever tension had existed between us for 25 years. I took that seriously. When Trent showed up at the funeral, eyes red, voice cracking when he spoke about his mother, I believed it. When he started calling more often, checking in, I thought maybe we'd finally found common ground in shared loss. I was wrong. Trent's real father had been a commercial developer, the kind of guy who wore expensive suits and drove German cars and made Trent believe that manual labor was beneath them. When that man walked out, Trent decided it was because Janet had married down, chosen security over status, picked a union electrician instead of holding out for someone better. He never said it directly, but I saw it in the way he introduced me to his college friends. This is Tony, my mom's husband. Never my stepdad, never my father. Just the man his mother had settled for. I paid for his Arizona State degree anyway. Watched him walk across that stage in 2005, business degree in hand, thinking maybe education would give him the white-collar success he craved. He took the CPA exam in 2006, failed. Took it again in 2007, failed again. Real estate seemed easier. Get licensed, show houses, collect commissions. The mid-2000s boom made it look simple. Trent posted photos of himself at resort properties, wore Hugo Boss suits to open houses, leased a Mercedes with vanity plates that read Soldats. But I'd seen enough construction booms and busts to recognize the pattern. Easy money attracts people without discipline. When the market corrects, the pretenders wash out. Trent never developed discipline. I learned later about the debt. The maxed credit cards, the predatory business loans, the back taxes. His real estate office was a UPS store mailbox. He was facing eviction. He performed success well enough that I believed the performance. After Janet died, he performed devotion just as convincingly. Started visiting every morning. Brought coffee from the fancy place on Camelback Road, the kind with the foam art on top. Brought vitamins too, said they'd help with grief and aging. Coke 10 in factory-sealed nature-made bottles. I took them because he seemed to care. He'd text before visiting, "You need anything from the store?" He'd ask about my sleep, my appetite, whether I was taking walks like the doctor recommended. I took them because Janet had asked me to make peace. I took them because I was 67 years old, recently widowed, and wanted to believe my stepson had finally stopped seeing me as the blue-collar replacement for the father who'd abandoned him. The bottles are still in my bathroom cabinet. 3 of them, red gel capsules that look exactly like the ones in the photos on the label. Dr. Chen's toxicology report sits on my workbench now, next to the Bonneville's chrome exhaust pipes. The numbers haven't changed. W, 0 micrograms per deciliter. 4 times the threshold for acute poisoning. Someone had been systematically poisoning me for months. My stepson had been killing me, and I'd documented everything. Trent started showing up every morning at 7:30. First Tuesday, he brought coffee. The fancy kind from the place on Camelback Road with foam art on top. Said he was in the neighborhood for an early showing, thought I might like something better than my usual Folgers. I took the cup. The foam art was a perfect rosette. "Appreciate this," I said. Second Tuesday, he brought vitamins. Nature-made Coke tin in a factory-sealed bottle, the kind with the red gelatin capsules. Held it up like a prescription. "These helped a client of mine after his wife passed," Trent said. "Grief takes a toll on the body, Tony. You're not getting any younger. These will help with energy, mental clarity, all that." I turned the bottle in my hands. The seal looked intact. The label showed all the usual FDA disclaimers and supplement facts. "You don't have to do this," I said. "Mom would want me to look out for you." He smiled, practiced. "Take 2 with breakfast. You'll feel the difference in a week." I took 2 that morning, and the next, and the one after that. By the 3rd week, it was routine. Trent's Mercedes pulling into my driveway at 7:30. The coffee. The vitamins on my kitchen counter. His concerned questions about whether I'd slept well, eaten breakfast, taken my supplements yet. "You look tired," he'd say. "Are you taking them every day?" I was. Rebecca called every Sunday at 6. Video calls from Seattle, her face filling my laptop screen while she sat in scrubs on her couch after 12-hour ER shifts. On the 4th Sunday, she leaned closer to her camera. "Dad, you're shaking," she said. I looked at my hands, holding the coffee mug. A slight tremor, nothing dramatic. "Just cold," I said. "Mornings are chilly. It's Phoenix. It's 70 degrees. I'm 67. Everything's cold now." Her eyes narrowed. She leaned closer to the camera. "Are you eating enough? You look thinner." "I eat fine. Trent brings me breakfast most mornings." That made her pause. "Trent's coming by?" "Every day. Brings coffee. Checks in. He's been good about it." "That's good," she said. "Careful. I'm glad you're not alone." Week 8. The nausea started. Mornings mostly. I'd take the vitamins with coffee, feel fine for an hour, then spend 20 minutes in the bathroom. Trent noticed. Of course he noticed. "You getting sick?" he asked, standing in my kitchen doorway. "Just my stomach. Probably something I ate." "You should see Dr. Chen. Get checked out." "It's nothing." "Tony." He used his real estate voice. Firm, concerned. "You're not taking care of yourself. Mom made me promise to watch out for you. Let me drive you to the doctor." I went. Dr. Chen ran blood work. Said everything looked normal for a 67-year-old man. Suggested I might be experiencing grief-related stress, that physical symptoms were common after losing a spouse. I scheduled my next appointment for 3 months out. Week 12, Rebecca asked about my hair during our Sunday call. "Are you losing weight?" she said. "Your face looks different." I ran my hand along my jawline. The bone felt sharper than I remembered. "Hair thins when you get old," I said. "Not that fast." "Dad, when's the last time you saw a doctor?" "Chen. Month ago," she said. "I'm fine." Rebecca switched to her ER voice. Started asking questions the way she'd triage a patient. Sleep patterns, appetite, bowel movements, energy levels. I answered honestly. Sleeping poorly, eating less, tired all the time. "That's grief," she said finally. "But if it gets worse, promise you'll call me." I promised. Trent kept coming. Kept bringing coffee and vitamins. Kept asking if I'd taken them yet in that concerned voice that made me feel guilty when I forgot. I never forgot. Trent, what I didn't know then, what I couldn't see while I sat at my kitchen table, taking those red capsules and thanking my stepson for his devotion, was what Trent saw when he looked at me. Not a father figure, not even a person, a problem with a 7-figure solution. Trent rented a UPS store mailbox on Scottsdale Road. Called it his office, and been for 8 months. The actual office with the glass door and his name on the directory had been surrendered when he couldn't make rent. His Mercedes was leased, 6 months behind on payments. The dealership had sent 2 notices. His credit cards were maxed, all 5 of them. Total debt across cards, business loans, and back taxes, $170,000. His apartment complex had posted an eviction notice on his door the same week he started bringing me vitamins. But his Instagram showed success. Photos of luxury properties he'd never sold. Fountain pens arranged on mahogany desks. The Mercedes with vanity plates. Captions about closing deals and living the dream. The fountain pens were real. 17 of them in a locked display case in his condo. Mont Blanc, Visconti, limited editions. He photographed the Mont Blanc against mahogany, posted it with a caption about closing deals. 31,000 in pens he'd never used for actual signatures. He bought the last one the day after Janet's funeral. In his home office, behind a framed motivational poster about success mindset, sat a small fireproof safe. Inside, a moleskin notebook with graph paper pages. The first entry was dated 6 months ago, the day after Janet's funeral. Research arsenic toxicity, elderly male. Lethal dose calculations. Symptoms timeline. The second entry, 2 weeks later, Kyle confirmed access, MedVet supply. Employee discount applies. Arsenic trioxide 100 Jing ordered. Justification, rodent control research. The entries continued. Week 1, 2 mg AM. No visible symptoms. Week 3, 2 mg AM. Reports nausea. Reduced to 1.5 mg. Week 6, tremors noted during video call. Maintain 1.5 mg. Week 8, hair thinning visible. Nausea confirmed. Reduced to 1 mg. Timeline extends but safer. Week 12, confusion increasing. Rebecca suspicious but accepts grief explanation. Resume 2 mg. The final page showed calculations. Cumulative toxicity levels. Projected organ failure timeline. Insurance policy, contestability periods. A date circled in red ink. 6 weeks from today. Target completion. Trent closed the notebook. Locked the safe. Checked his watch. 7:15. Time to make coffee and grab the vitamin bottle from his bathroom cabinet. The one with the factory seal he'd learned to remove and replace using a hairdryer and patience. Tony would have the coffee maker ready. Would ask if Trent wanted breakfast. Would thank him for the vitamins. The old man took his vitamins like clockwork. 3 days after the toxicology report, I found the power of attorney documents while organizing my garage filing system. The 2021 box sat on my workbench, papers spread across the scarred surface. I was sorting quarterly statements when I found them. Power of attorney documents, misfiled in the 2019 box instead of with the 2021 documents where they belonged. The paper trembled in my grip. I set it on the workbench, pressed my palms flat against the scarred wood. I read the header, Durable Power of Attorney for Financial Matters. Dated May 2021, 2 months after Janet's funeral. The document granted Trent full authority over my union pension, investment accounts, and the right to change beneficiaries on all insurance policies. My signature appeared at the bottom in blue ink. A notary seal pressed into the paper beside 2 witness signatures. I held the page up to the fluorescent light. The signature looked like mine. Almost. The loops were too wide. The pressure points were wrong. I'd signed electrical permits, union contracts, mortgage papers for 20 years. Knew the way my hand moved, the pressure points where the pen dug in. This wasn't my signature. The notary seal looked wrong too. The embossing was shallow, the text slightly blurred. I pulled out my reading glasses and examined it closer. The notary's commission number didn't match the format Arizona used. I'd seen enough legitimate seals on union contracts to recognize a fake. The witness names meant nothing to me. Robert Chen, Maria Rodriguez. I'd never heard of either person. I set the document down, Picked up my phone, put it back down. I retched into the toilet until nothing came up but bile. Third time this week. My stomach cramped, empty and raw. I rinsed my mouth, looked at myself in the mirror. The bones in my face showed sharper than they should. My scalp showed through what used to be thick silver hair. Grief, Dr. Chen had said. Stress. Normal for a 67-year-old widower. I went back to the garage, stared at the forged documents. Trent had tried to take control of everything. My pension, my investments, the insurance policy that would pay out $4.7 million when I died. When I died, the thought settled cold in my chest. Trent arrived at 7:30 on Saturday morning. Same as always. Mercedes in the driveway, coffee cups in hand, that practiced smile. I met him at the door. Didn't let him inside. "We need to talk," I said. His smile shifted. "Sure, Tony. Everything okay?" I held up the power of attorney documents. "When did I sign these?" He glanced at the papers. Something flickered across his face. "Gone too fast to read. You don't remember?" His voice dropped half an octave, slowed like he was talking to a confused child. "Tony, we talked about this months ago. You were having trouble with the bills, keeping track of everything. I never asked you to take control of my accounts." "You did." He spoke louder now. "You said it would be easier if I handled the financial stuff while you were grieving. That's not my signature." Trent stepped closer, put his hand on my shoulder. I wanted to shrug it off, but my arm felt heavy. "Tony, listen to me. You've been confused lately, forgetting things. I know grief does that. Mom's death hit you hard. That's why these documents are important. So you don't have to worry about money while you're dealing with everything else. The notary seal is fake. It's not fake. You're just stressed. Look, why don't you sit down? Let me get you some water. Did you take your vitamins this morning?" My head felt foggy. The nausea was back, rolling through my stomach in waves. "I want those documents voided," I said. "Of course, if that's what you want, we can talk to a lawyer. But Tony, you need help managing your affairs. You're not thinking clearly. Let me take care of things." That's what Mom would have wanted. He kept using her name, kept speaking in that syrupy voice that made me feel like I was losing my mind. "Get out," I said. The sympathetic crease between his eyebrows smoothed. His mouth tightened. The concerned Stepson performance dropped like a mask. "I'm trying to help you. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I closed the door, locked it, listened to his footsteps on the porch, the Mercedes starting, pulling away. My hands were shaking again. I sat at the kitchen table and stared at the coffee he'd brought. The foam art had dissolved into brown liquid. The phone rang at 2 that afternoon. "Mr. Marino, this is Sandra Chen from Arizona Central Credit Union." I recognized her voice. She'd been my branch manager for 12 years. "We need to discuss some irregularities with your accounts," she said. "Your stepson has been making withdrawal requests over the past several months using a power of attorney document. Our staff noticed some concerns." "What kind of concerns?" "The signature on documents doesn't match your usual style. You've banked with us since 1981, Mr. Marino. We know your signature. The handwriting is shaky, inconsistent with the firm signature we have on file." My vision blurred at the edges. I gripped the kitchen counter, felt the laminate edge dig into my palm. "He's been trying to access my accounts multiple times. He became aggressive when we asked for additional verification. We wanted to confirm these requests are legitimate before processing any transactions." I pulled out my 2021 calendar. May was blank. No notary appointment. No lawyer meeting. I'd never signed those papers. They're not legitimate. None of it is. Silence on the line. Then, carefully, "Mr. Marino, are you safe?" "I don't know." That night, the peripheral neuropathy got worse. I tried to grip the coffee mug. My fingers wouldn't close properly. The ceramic slipped, fell, shattered across the kitchen floor in a spray of brown liquid and white shards. The confusion came in waves. I'd forget what I was doing mid-task, stand in the garage holding a wrench, unable to remember why I'd picked it up. Stress, I told myself. The forged documents. The betrayal. Finding out your stepson tried to steal your life savings would make anyone confused. I picked up the ceramic shards one by one, dropped them in the trash. Each piece clicked against the others. I forced down half a can of soup, tasted nothing. I filed the power of attorney documents in the correct box. 2023, right where they belonged, between the February bank statements and the April Union newsletter. Everything in its place. I filled a glass with water, shook 2 red capsules from the bottle Trent had brought. They looked exactly like the ones in the Nature-Made photos. Factory sealed, FDA approved. I swallowed them both. My phone buzzed. Text from Trent. "We should talk. I'm worried about you." I deleted it. That same night, Rebecca sat in her Seattle apartment reviewing saved FaceTime recordings. Her laptop sat open on her coffee table, the screen frozen on my face from 6 months ago. Sunday, March 12, 2021. The first video call after Janet's funeral. I looked different in that recording, fuller in the face. My hand steady when I lifted the coffee mug. My hair thick enough that the silver caught the garage fluorescent lights. She clicked to the next saved call. March 9th. My hands had a slight tremor. I'd blamed it on the cold. March 26. The tremor was worse. I'd set the coffee mug down twice during that call. April 7. My face looked thinner. The bones showed sharper under my skin. Rebecca paused the video, pulled out her phone, opened the Notes app where she'd been tracking symptoms like patient charts. Dates down the left column. Observations on the right. March 12, baseline. Normal affect, steady hands, appropriate weight. March 19, fine tremor bilateral hands. Attributes to temperature. March 26, tremor increased. Facial features appear more angular. April thect, nausea reported. Weight loss visible. Hair thinning at crown. She scrolled through 12 more entries. March 12, steady hands. March 19, tremor. March 26, worse tremor. April 7, facial thinning. The intervals matched Trent's visits exactly. She'd seen this before. Not grief, not aging. A toxidrome. She picked up her phone. Dialed Dr. Chen's office. Got the answering service. "This is Rebecca Marino, calling about my father, Tony Marino. I need Dr. Chen to call me immediately regarding heavy metal toxicity." The service operator started asking questions. Rebecca cut her off. "Tell her I'm an ER nurse at Harborview Medical Center and I need to discuss arsenic exposure." "She has my number," Dr. Chen called back in 14 minutes. "Rebecca, what's going on?" "I need you to order a comprehensive heavy metal panel on my father. Full toxicology screen, including arsenic, lead, mercury." Silence on the line. Then, carefully, "I'm not sure that's warranted based on his last physical. I've been reviewing 6 months of video calls. Progressive symptoms, including peripheral neuropathy, nausea, confusion, and alopecia. That's not grief, that's a toxidrome. Those symptoms could be stress-related." Dr. Chen. Rebecca's voice dropped into the clinical precision she used in trauma bays. "I've treated arsenic poisoning. The symptom progression matches perfectly. His tremor started mild and increased over weeks. The nausea correlates with daily exposure. The confusion episode suggests cumulative toxicity affecting neurological function." Dr. Chen was quiet for a moment. "My father died from what we thought was pneumonia," she said. "Turned out to be congestive heart failure. 3 doctors missed it. I've regretted not pushing for more tests ever since. Then you understand why I'm calling. I'll order the panel. It'll take 3 days for results. Thank you. Rebecca hung up, stared at the frozen image on her laptop screen. My face gaunt, my eyes unfocused, my hands shaking around a coffee mug. She opened a new note on her phone, started typing a list of questions she'd ask when the results came back. The call came on Thursday at 2 in the afternoon. Dr. Chen's voice was steady but tight. The results are back. Tony's arsenic levels are 0 micrograms per deciliter. Normal is below 0.1. Rebecca's hand tightened on her phone. That's 4 times the acute poisoning threshold. The biomarker patterns indicate chronic exposure over months. This wasn't accidental. Rebecca stood up from her couch, paced to her kitchen window. Seattle rain streaked the glass. I'm calling Phoenix PD, Dr. Chen said. This is a mandatory report. I'm flying out tonight. Rebecca, I need to tell you something else. The cumulative toxicity levels suggest whoever is doing this planned to continue for several more weeks. Your father's liver and kidney function are already compromised. If this had gone on much longer, she didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Detective Pruitt called that afternoon, asked me to come in, bring any documents I had. I sat at his desk, reviewing Dr. Chen's report when I walked into Phoenix PD headquarters 3 days later. Rebecca had called ahead, explained the situation, asked for someone who specialized in elder exploitation. Pruitt rose from his desk when I walked in. 6'1", built like a linebacker, with a shaved head and work boots under his off-rack suit. He shook my hand with the kind of grip that came from years of manual labor. Mr. Marino, have a seat. I sat. Rebecca stood behind my chair, one hand on my shoulder. I read Dr. Chen's report, Pruitt said. 4 times the acute poisoning threshold. That's attempted murder. My stepson has been bringing me vitamins every morning for 6 months. Pruitt pulled out a worn notebook. Not department issue. A pipefitter's notebook, the kind with gridded pages and a leather cover. Tell me about your filing system, he said. The question caught me off guard. My filing system, Dr. Chen mentioned, you keep detailed records. Union documents, financial statements, everything organized by year. 42 years of records. Banker's boxes in my garage, sorted chronologically. Pruitt nodded. That's pipefitter documentation. You build it right the first time so it doesn't fall apart later. You were a pipefitter 15 years before my back gave out. I recognized the system. He tapped his notebook. We're going to need those records. Everything you have on your stepson, insurance policies, beneficiary changes, any financial documents. I found forged power of attorney papers last week. Pruitt's pen stopped moving. Forged how? Wrong signature. Fake notary seal. Witnesses I've never met. But you still have them? Filed in the 2023 box, where they belong. Something that might have been a smile crossed Pruitt's face. Mr. Marino, I'm going to need to search your stepson's residence and computer. To do that, I need probable cause for a warrant. Dr. Chen's report gives me medical evidence. Your forged documents give me financial fraud. But what I really need is proof of intent. How do we get that? We start with his computer. Search history, emails, any research he might have done on arsenic poisoning. The search warrant came through on Friday. Pruitt called me that evening. We found his search history. Lethal dose, arsenic, elderly. Symptoms of arsenic toxicity. Can doctors detect arsenic in blood tests? All searched in the weeks before he started visiting you daily. I set the phone on the workbench, pressed my palms flat against the scarred wood. There's more, Pruitt said. Purchase records from a veterinary supply company. Your stepson's friend Kyle Brennan works there. Used his employee discount to buy 100 grams of arsenic trioxide 2 weeks after your wife's funeral. Rebecca leaned closer to the phone. "That's enough to kill someone 10 times over," she said. "We found text messages between them. Kyle asking about your rat problem. Trent responding, should be solved soon." I closed my eyes. We executed the search warrant on his home office. The safe was exactly where I'd expected, behind that motivational poster about success mindset. Inside was a notebook, graph paper, handwritten entries dating back 6 months. What kind of entries? Dates, dosage amounts, symptom observations, increased confusion, nausea manageable, neighbor noticed tremors, reduced dose. The room tilted. Rebecca's hand tightened on my shoulder. "The last page has calculations," Pruitt said. "Cumulative toxicity levels. Timeline projections. There's a date circled in red ink, 6 weeks from the day he wrote that entry. Written next to it, target completion. He was planning when I'd die. He was documenting it like a job. Same precision you use for your electrical work." Pruitt's voice hardened. "We have everything we need for attempted murder charges. But I want to do this right. I want him to confess on tape. Are you willing to help me get that?" I looked at Rebecca. She nodded. "What's the plan?" I asked. Detective Pruitt's office smelled like burnt coffee and old paper. I sat across from his desk, Rebecca standing behind my chair with one hand on my shoulder. Pruitt slid a folder across the scarred surface. "Your stepson organized a celebration lunch for tomorrow. Rosie's Diner on East McDowell. Invited his real estate colleagues to celebrate closing a commercial property deal." "What deal?" Rebecca asked. "Doesn't exist. Same as the rest of his success stories." Pruitt opened the folder. "Kyle Brennan confirmed he'll be there. Trent wants to share the good news with his partner." I stared at the folder. Inside were surveillance photos of Rosie's. The chrome exterior, the red vinyl booths visible through the windows. The parking lot I'd pulled into every Saturday for 20 years. "You want me to wear a wire," I said. "I want Trent's confession in his own words. We have the dosage journal, the computer searches, the purchase records. But juries respond to voice. They need to hear him say it." My hands started shaking. I pressed them flat against my thighs. "He poisoned me for 6 months. Documented every dose in his notebook, like it was a job specification. You want me to sit across from him and pretend everything's fine?" Rebecca's grip tightened on my shoulder. "Dad, you don't have to do this." Pruitt leaned forward. "Mr. Marino, you spent 42 years making sure every wire was to code, every connection was safe. You documented everything because you knew someone's life might depend on getting it right. That's what you did here. Your filing system, your records, your habit of keeping everything organized. You built this case the same way you'd build an electrical system. Right the first time so it doesn't fall apart later." I looked at the surveillance photos. The diner where I'd eaten breakfast every Saturday, read the newspaper at the counter, known the waitresses by name. Trent had chosen it because it was beneath his carefully constructed image. Never imagined it would become the place his lies collapsed. "What do I have to do?" I asked. Pruitt pulled out a small device. Black plastic, about the size of a deck of cards. Digital recorder. We tape it to your chest, under your shirt. You sit in your usual booth, let Trent talk. He'll want to brag to Kyle about the perfect crime. Men like him can't help themselves. They need someone to know how clever they are. What if he notices the wire? He won't. He's too focused on his performance. Just stay calm, let him talk, order your regular breakfast. You've been going there for 20 years. Act like you belong." Rebecca moved around to face me. "I'll be monitoring the audio feed at the station. If anything goes wrong, Pruitt's team moves in immediately." Pruitt nodded. 3 officers positioned at the exits. Unmarked sedan across the street. The moment I hear enough for a confession, we execute the arrest. I thought about the vitamin bottles in my bathroom cabinet. The red capsules Trent had hand filled with arsenic. The factory seals he'd learned to remove, using a hairdryer and YouTube tutorials. 6 months of poisoning documented in his handwritten journal like a job specification. He planned when I'd die, I said, wrote it in his notebook. Target completion date. That's why we need his voice on tape. Admitting it, explaining how he did it, Pruitt's mouth twitched. Almost a smile. This is your chance to watch him destroy himself in front of everyone who believed his lies. The next morning, a technician taped the recording device to my chest. The adhesive pulled at my skin. The device pressed against my sternum. Metal cold through the cotton shirt. Test 1, 2, I said. Pruitt's voice came through the earpiece they'd fitted in my left ear. Clear. Remember, let him talk. Stay calm. We're right outside. Rebecca hugged me in the parking lot before I drove to the diner. You can do this, she said. 42 years of steady hands. Don't lose them now. I pulled into Rosie's lot at 11:30. Saturday lunch crowd. Every booth filled. I entered, slid into my usual corner booth with a view of the entrance. The waitress brought coffee without asking. Haven't seen you in a few weeks, Tony. You doing okay? Getting there, I said. Trent's Mercedes pulled up at 11:45. He stepped out wearing a charcoal suit, expensive sunglasses that practiced smile. Kyle Brennan climbed out of the passenger side. Shorter, nervous, kept checking his phone. Saft, they entered together. Trent waved at 2 tables of real estate colleagues who'd arrived earlier, then spotted me in the corner booth. The smile was gone. The smooth voice cracked on my name. Tony, didn't know you'd be here. Saturday breakfast. Same as always. He slid into the booth across from me. Kyle sat beside him, hands fidgeting with his napkin. This is Kyle. Old college buddy. We're celebrating a deal I just closed. Commercial property, Kyle added. Too quick. Rehearsed. Congratulations, I said. Trent ordered coffee. Started talking about the fabricated deal, speaking loud enough for the nearby tables to hear. Square footage, purchase price, investment potential. The real estate colleagues nodded, impressed. Then his voice dropped. He leaned closer. Kyle, I told you about my situation. The one we discussed. Kyle glanced at me, back to Trent. The vitamins worked perfectly, Trent said. 6 months of daily doses. The old man never suspected a thing. The coffee cup shook. Brown liquid sloshed against white ceramic. I set it down before it spilled. Pruitt's voice whispered through my earpiece. Stay calm. Let him talk. MedVet supply came through, Trent continued. Your employee discount made it easy. 100 grams of arsenic trioxide. Enough to solve the problem 10 times over. Kyle shifted in his seat. You're sure nobody noticed? His daughter's in Seattle, working 12-hour shifts. I timed everything around her schedule. She calls every Sunday, sees him getting worse, blames it on grief. Trent laughed. Quiet. Cold. The old man's too stupid to notice anything wrong. The recording device pressed against my chest. My jaw ached from staying clenched. 47 minutes felt like hours. He described the dosage journal, the calculations, the YouTube tutorial on removing factory seals with a hairdryer, the forged power of attorney documents, the insurance policy beneficiary change he'd planned. Another 2 weeks and it would have been done, Trent said. Natural causes. Heart failure, kidney failure, something age-related. Nobody questions when a 67-year-old widower dies. 2 more weeks, and I'd hit my target date. Everything timed perfectly. What about my payment? Kyle asked. You said $50,000 once it's done. $50,000. Soon as the insurance pays out. Just like we agreed. Movement outside the window. Pruitt's unmarked sedan pulling into the lot. 3 uniformed officers approaching the entrance. Trent was still talking, explaining how he'd researched arsenic detection in blood tests, how he'd reduced doses when I showed visible symptoms. how he'd performed the devoted stepson routine perfectly. The officers walked through the door. Pruitt followed. "Trent Holloway, stand up and put your hands behind your back." Trent's face drained. His practiced smile collapsed. "What is this? You're under arrest for attempted murder." The real estate colleagues at the nearby tables stopped eating, stared, watched as Pruitt pulled Trent from the booth, cuffed his hands behind his back. "You have the right to remain silent." Trent's eyes found mine. "Only, I can explain. We recorded everything," Pruitt said. 47 minutes. Every word. They led him out through the diner. Past the colleagues who'd believed his success stories. Past the waitress who'd brought him coffee. Past the chrome counter where I'd eaten breakfast every Saturday for 20 years. Kyle sat frozen in the booth. Another officer moved in, read him his rights. I pulled the earpiece out, unbuttoned my shirt. The recording device came free with a sharp pull of adhesive. Rebecca's voice crackled through before I set it on the table. "Dad, are you okay?" "Yeah," I said. Pulled the earpiece out. Set it on the table. "I'm okay." Pruitt's office smelled like burnt coffee and old paper. 3 days after the arrest, he slid a folder across his desk. I sat across from him, Rebecca beside me. He flipped to page 4. Stopped. His finger tapped the line. "Lab found your stepson's fingerprints on the gelatin shells themselves." Rebecca leaned forward. "That's impossible if the bottles were never opened." "Exactly. Factory workers wear gloves during automated filling. No human fingerprints should exist on capsules inside sealed bottles." Pruitt turned the page. "Chemical analysis shows the capsules were hand-filled. Arsenic trioxide mixed with rice flour to match the weight and appearance of legitimate Coke 110 supplements." My hands rested flat on his desk. The tremors had decreased since I'd stopped taking the vitamins. My fingers still shook when I held the coffee cup. He opened the bottles, dumped the real capsules, refilled them with poison, then resealed everything using a hairdryer, Pruitt said. We found the tutorial in his browser history. Step-by-step instructions on removing and replacing factory seals. Rebecca pulled out her phone, started typing notes. "The insurance company called this morning," Pruitt said. "Their special investigations unit wants to meet with you." "About what?" "The beneficiary change forms Trent submitted. They have forensic document examiners who analyze signatures for fraud cases." 5 days after the arrest, I sat in a conference room at the insurance company's downtown office. Patricia Shaw from the fraud division wore reading glasses on a chain and spread documents across the conference table with the precision of someone who'd done this 100 times. "These are the beneficiary change forms your stepson submitted," Shaw said. "The ones attempting to redirect your death benefit to himself." I recognized the forms, the same ones I'd found misfiled in my garage. Shaw placed a magnifying lens over my signature. "The pressure points are wrong. When you sign your name, Mr. Marino, you press harder on downstrokes, lighter on upstrokes. This signature shows consistent pressure throughout. Someone traced it." She pulled out another document. "My actual signature from the original policy application in 1994. See the difference? Your authentic signature has natural variation. The forged one is too perfect, too careful." "What happens now?" Rebecca asked. "We're pursuing triple damages under Arizona fraud law. Your stepson attempted to fraudulently claim a $4.7 million death benefit. That means civil liability of $14.1 million, separate from any criminal penalties." I stared at the numbers on the page. "He'll never pay that," I said. "No, but we'll seize every asset he has. The leased vehicle, the fountain pen collection, anything of value. And if he's convicted criminally, we'll file a restitution claim for your medical expenses." Pruitt turned his computer screen toward me. Kyle Brennan hunched forward in the interrogation room, hands shaking, public defender whispering in his ear. "He's being charged with attempted murder." Pruitt said. "Same as Trent. He didn't poison me. He just sold the arsenic. Arizona conspiracy law says different. He agreed to help commit murder and took substantial steps toward completion. That's the complete crime. Doesn't matter that he never touched the vitamin bottles." The screen showed Kyle pressing his palms against the metal table. "MedVet Supply Solutions terminated him this morning," Pruitt said. "Permanent industry blacklisting. He'll never work in veterinary supply again." The next 6 weeks moved in slow motion. Medical appointments to monitor the arsenic damage. Depositions with my attorney, Rebecca, flying in every other weekend. Then the trial date arrived. I sat in the gallery behind the prosecution table, Rebecca beside me, hand resting on my arm. Trent sat at the defense table in a cheap suit, 2 sizes too big, assets frozen, public defender shuffling papers. Judge Patricia Voss presiding, former public defender, known for maximum sentences in elder abuse cases. Her own grandmother had been financially exploited by a contractor. She didn't hide her contempt for people who preyed on vulnerable adults. The first day, the prosecution played the wire recording, 47 minutes of Trent's voice filling the courtroom. His explanation of dosage calculations, symptom management, insurance fraud planning. The old man's too stupid to notice anything wrong. The words hung in the air. A woman in the jury's front row shook her head. The second day brought physical evidence. The dosage journal projected on screens behind the prosecutor. Trent's handwriting documenting 6 months of poisoning. Computer search history showing his research on arsenic toxicity. Veterinary supply receipts. Text messages between Trent and Kyle joking about rat problems. On the third day, Pruitt wheeled in 3 bankers' boxes. 42 years of union records. Financial statements. Insurance documents. The prosecutor held up the forged power of attorney documents. Mr. Marino's filing system is meticulous. These documents were misfiled in 2019 instead of 2021. That inconsistency is what first alerted him to fraud. Trent's public defender stood, started to object, sat back down. The jury had already decided. Sentencing hearing on day 4. Judge Voss reviewed the presentencing report. Adjusted her reading glasses. "Mr. Holloway, I presided over elder abuse cases for 15 years. She paused, looked directly at Trent. "Systematic poisoning of a grieving widower represents a level of calculation that disturbs me deeply." Trent's shoulders slumped. "You exploited your mother's death. You weaponized Mr. Marino's grief. You documented your crime like a job specification, planning the exact date your stepfather would die." She adjusted her reading glasses. "Arizona's enhanced penalty structure for crimes against victims over 65 allows me to apply maximum guidelines. For attempted murder with aggravating factors, I sentence you to 25 years in the Arizona Department of Corrections." Rebecca's hand tightened on mine. "Additionally, I'm ordering asset forfeiture. Your fountain pen collection, the leased vehicle, all remaining assets will be seized to compensate Mr. Marino's medical expenses and restitution." Trent turned, looked at me across the courtroom. The practiced smile was gone. The real estate performance had ended. He was 38 years old. He'd be 63 when he got out. Older than I was now. Judge Voss continued, "Let this sentence send a message. Predators who exploit grief, who target vulnerable adults, who treat human life as an obstacle to financial gain, will face the full weight of the law." The bailiff led Trent away. His expensive suit hung loose on his frame. The colleagues, who'd believed his success stories, filled the gallery, watching his destruction. I stood. Rebecca helped me with my jacket. We walked out through the courthouse doors into Phoenix sunlight. "It's over," she said. I nodded, touched my wedding ring. Janet's voice in the hospital bed. "Make peace with Trent." I'd tried, brought him coffee after the funeral, took his vitamins every morning. Believed the performance. Some people can't be reached. Feeling my revenge? Tap like. Let me hear from you below. 12 months after Trent's sentencing, I stood in my garage watching Rebecca bring coffee. She crossed the concrete floor, steam rising from the mud. Her footsteps echoed off the metal shelving units. A new box sat on the top shelf. Trial Records 2022, filed chronologically where it belonged. You finished it, Rebecca said. The 1967 Triumph Bonneville gleamed on its center stand. Chrome exhaust pipes I'd polished that morning caught the spring sunlight filtering through the open garage door. British racing green paint reflected the pegboards of organized tools. 23 years of restoration. Done. The neuropathy in my fingers is better, I said. Dr. Chen says I should be able to handle the throttle now. She handed me the coffee. The mug was warm against my palms. My hands were steadier now. The tremors had decreased after 6 months of chelation therapy. My arsenic levels tested normal. Dr. Chen confirmed it at my 6-month follow-up. The peripheral neuropathy would probably never go away. Small price. The Union brothers called, Rebecca said. They want you at the hall Sunday. Something about a recognition ceremony. I'd returned to Local 769 2 weeks ago. First time since retirement. Walked through those doors, expecting a quiet visit, maybe catch up with a few guys from the old crew. The entire membership was there, 80 men who'd worked alongside me for 4 decades. They stood when I entered, applauded until my ears rang. The checks arrived weekly. No names attached, just Local 769 return address. Covered what Blue Cross didn't. Legal expenses, medical bills, the costs that pile up when your stepson tries to kill you. I updated the insurance beneficiary, I said. Went to the union office. In-person verification, 2 witnesses, legitimate notary. Everything documented. Rebecca smiled, set her coffee on the workbench. Mom would have liked seeing you finish it. She always said you'd ride it someday. Janet's voice still echoed sometimes. Make peace with Trent. I'd tried, took his vitamins every morning. Believed the performance. Some people can't be reached. The turntable on my workbench played Johnny Cash. I picked up the chrome polish and a clean rag. Working on the exhaust pipes. The familiar motion settled something in my chest. Rebecca leaned against the Bonneville. You ready to ride it again? She asked. Yeah, I said. Think I am.